All right. We normally hear this. I've heard people say this, saying married men are more successful than single men because they got their wife to help them out, have that balance, that union, working together. And this video that I'm about to get into today, just to kind of review all of that and react to it, they saying married men make way more money than single men. So people might measure success differently in terms of how much money is made each year. They say it's not how much you make, it's how much you can keep. But we live in a capitalistic world, a society where everything is based on money. And so some measure how much money somebody makes as them being successful. So we're going to get into it, and I want you all to let me know what you think down in the comments. Married men and single men. Do married men have more success than single men? I'm not married, I'm single. And so let's get into it. Fair use YouTube, fair use. Let's go.
The median income for married men in the United States was about $65,000. However, their peak income occurred around age 47, reports CBS News, with an income of about $86,502. Married men earn significantly more than single men, up to $30,000 more per year, primarily due to the fact that married men do work more hours, statistically up to 20 to 30% more hours. So over the course of the year, that can be between 200 to 600 more hours that married men are working. While taller men married earlier, the data shows that shorter men stayed married longer. The average man in the United States stands 5'9" or 5'9.7. I don't want to take that 3/4 of an inch from my 5'9" brothers. The tallest men are located in these states. From the data I found, age rather than height or income was a greater predictor of whether a man was married or single in the United States. On average, taller men had higher incomes and were overrepresented in the C-suite. For example, only about 15% of men are over 6 feet tall in the United States as a whole. However, in the C-suite, 50% of CEOs of Fortune 500 companies stand 6 feet or taller. Overall, when looking at both married and single men, the median male earned a salary of $60,000. The average man earned a salary.
All right, I'm gonna stop it right here for now. Do you all agree so far? You all see the numbers, height, in terms of median income, and what the data is saying here? Do anybody who fit into these categories, to the married men and single men who are listening to this, do you agree? And we're going to continue, and we're going to see exactly why he's saying why married men make more money than single men, and overall, like the title of the video, are married men more successful than single men? Let's continue.
Salary of $84,000. Here's a side-by-side comparison of single and married men in the United States. You can find my video on the average single man linked in the video description below. I'll also drop a hyperlink at the end of this video where it's clickable. For the rest of this video, I'm going to focus on married men. And to do so, I'm going to look at median income, average income, how much income married men make, which, as I said, is about 20 to 30% more than single men. I'm then going to assume or look at the data for those married men as household income, and then I'll wrap up this video with average net worth in the United States.
Celebrate Paleo Valley's Earth Day sale and get 30 sticks for only $36. If you're someone who cares about healthy eating,
you can find everything I'm talking about in this video linked in the video description below. I'm going to talk about average and median a lot in this video, so here's a quick breakdown of those two definitions. Typically, I like to use median income because I think that's a better representation of most people's experience. However, I'll give you both median and average for comparison points throughout the course of this video. When I'm talking about median, I'm talking about the middle. So that's usually going to be meaning that most Americans make 50% more and 50% less. How do you calculate median? You take the entirety of whatever population you're looking at. In this case, I'm looking at the United States, and you find the figure in the middle. Whereas when talking about average income, you take the totality of the population and you divide by that population. Average is typically prone to outliers, so that's why I don't like to use average, especially when we're talking about something like income, when someone could make $0 and someone could be a billionaire. So in most cases, when you hear me talking about income throughout this video, I'll be talking about the median. Once again, by way of reminder, your average married male stands 5'9", or at least I found no data that showed that taller men are more likely to be married. Instead, age is a greater predictor of marriage than height or income. But taller men do tend to get married sooner, is what the data shows. Maybe as a result of that, shorter men tend to stay married longer, meaning that individuals as a whole who married older tend to stay married longer. At his peak income years, which is around age 47, that average married male is going to make about $90,000 a year. His median income will be around $65,000 a year. Here's that side-by-side comparison between your average single male and your average married male in the United States. This data is looking at heterosexual couples, not because I'm biased, but because that data was easier to find and there was a larger population of that information readily available online. All my data is sourced in the video description below, most of it pulled from the U.S. Census Bureau, U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, or some federal data source, unless otherwise noted in the video description or in these infographics I created for this video. With that in mind, you can go right to the U.S. Census Bureau and pull down this report, The Income in the United States. In that report in figure 4, you'll find that all workers had an income of about $48,000, with men earning an income of about $52,000. Again, that does include all workers, and that is regardless of marital status. Full-time workers do make more income, as you see here, at about $60,000, with men earning a median income of about $62,000. Just looking at that data without accounting for marital status, the average man has an income of $84,000 and a median income of $60,000. He stands 5'9", or 5'9.7" inches tall and weighs around 200 pounds in the United States. Our tallest men at about 5'11" are located in Alabama, Montana, Nebraska, South Dakota, Tennessee, and Utah, where all...
Okay, so we're at 5 minutes in, and I'm seeing a lot of data, a lot of statistics. I'm still not seeing why the married men make way more money than us single men, but I guess he's going to get into that a little bit later on in the video. The data is great, the sources, and it's just showing how much these married men are making compared to the single men. But let's see if he gets into why, like he says in the title, married men make way more money than single men. Let's go.
All tall average men tie for about 5'10.6" inches in those states. You can find your state listed here in these tables, where I've highlighted the tallest men in each state, or bolded for emphasis the tallest men in each state. For ease, I've also included the tallest women here, with the tallest women located in Oregon standing 5'4.8". The remaining states tie at 5'4.7" for Idaho, Minnesota, Montana, South Dakota, and Utah for your tallest women. And again, the tallest women are located in Oregon, standing 5'4.8" inches tall. While I found no data indicating that taller men are more likely to be married, instead age is a greater predictor of marriage outcomes, I did find that taller men are overrepresented in positions of power, and they tend to make more money, with more taller men being leading Fortune 500 companies, where over 50% of these men being over 6 feet tall, whereas only about 15% of the US population have men over 6 feet tall. I think it's 14.7 to be exact. For those curious, the United States ranks about 47th globally, standing at 5'9.7". Standing over 6 feet tall, the tallest men as of the date of this report were located in the Netherlands. Looking at data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, we have a breakdown of median income for all men from ages 16 to 65. Their median income is $60,000. Their average income is $84,189. Keeping in mind that the average salary is pulled higher by significantly higher income earners, so a better representation of the data in most people's experience is likely going to be the median, and as you see here, that's about $60,000 a year. Overall, Americans' peak earning years occur between ages 35 and 54. This does not account for marital status, but it does include a breakdown by age for the median, average, top 10%, and top 1% of income earners. On the left, you'll find a map of median income earnings for full-time workers for the Bureau of Labor Statistics, finding that median income earnings was around $48,000. On the right, you'll find average salaries around the United States. In 2024, according to the U.S. Census Bureau, the median male earned $60,000, the median female earned $45,000, the average male earned $84,000, while the average female earned $61,000. Narrowing that population to just the average married male, again standing 5'9.7", and his peak income is $86,502, which he will earn around age 47, according to CBS News. There's about
Here's how I went from extra, extra large to medium, 4 dress sizes, in record time using nothing but pinks.
There's about twice as many single young men in the United States than women, with 63% of men ages 18 to 29 claiming to be single. Therefore, age rather than height or income was a greater predictor of whether a man was married or single in the United States. Of these single men, about half have never approached a woman in real life, with most meeting online. In fact, in 2017, a study found that about 40% of relationships will first begin online, and they were projecting that over 50% of relationships will start online in 2025 or later. Why does that matter? Because when relationships start online, typically these factors like income and height actually grow in importance when given the opportunity to sort by these ranges. Now, I don't know how long most of you have been married, but the dating game looks a lot different than you might remember.
Okay, so the 666 rule is that men have to make 6 figures, be over 6 feet tall, and have a 6-inch PP.
Oh my God, are you serious? What are your thoughts on girls who will only date men who are 6 feet tall, make 6 figures, and are 6 inches? I would assume you're referring to the size. Hey, you need to have standards in your life, and they are important. That being said, I do think not a lot of people understand how small of the population that is.
What do you think the average guy makes in the United States?
Maybe probably like 80K.
Wow.
400,000.
Average male, 70,000.
$37,000 a year.
You want his income to be? I feel like this is gonna sound bad. I feel like 300,000.
I would have to say 127, probably 150 to $250,000 a year.
$500,000? Is that bad?
You can see where a lot of these women are completely off in terms of the average. It was 37,000, but these women are completely just in the dark when it comes to, I guess, average salaries for men in the United States. I guess you can blame the internet and social media for that, and just seeing these lifestyles that people are portraying on the internet, but it's not really the whole complete view of what's going on, and then how people just get so influenced by celebrities, and so they think that that's what the average salary actually is. I'm seeing 400,000 thrown out, and these ladies are completely in the dark, but we'll continue.
150, maybe to 250,000 a year would be comfortable for sure.
I was just having this conversation with my friend, and she was like, you have to manifest a husband, girl. Ideally, my husband needs to be making like 650,000.
So you said you want 500K, but what do you think the median income is for a 30-year-old?
60K? 70K?
It is $45,000.
Oh my God, really?
Yeah,
I think it's 250,000.
it's 52,000.
What? No, it's not.
Overall, Americans are marrying later, with men marrying around age 30 and women marrying around age 28. If they are marrying at all, with marriage rates dropping and Americans marrying later. In fact, marriage rates reached their lowest point in 2022. Not only are individuals marrying later, but those households look a lot different when they do marry. In 1993, about 60% of households would have had at least one child by their 30s, whereas by 2023, when this data was last studied, only 27% of households had a child by age 30. And in fact, just recently, the highest number of 40-year-olds reported not being married by this age, reaching 25% of Americans. So again, Americans are marrying later or foregoing marriage completely. A study by the Federal Reserve found that married men made significantly more money than everyone else in the population. Their peak earnings at age 47 was around $90,000 a year. This held true across race and ethnicity, although when looking at household income, Asian households had the highest median household income at about $108,000 a year, according to the U.S. Census Bureau. This study was also reinforced more recently by Self Financial, finding that the average single person had an income of around $56,000, while the average married couple had a household income of $146,000. CBS News had similar findings, finding that married men made $20,000 to $30,000 more a year than the rest of the population. Here's a side-by-side comparison of salary outcomes for your average single male and your average married male. With your average married male standing 5'9.7", but shorter men tend to marry later and stay married longer. His peak earning income was $86,502 at around age 47. Why did married men make more income? The data and studies were fairly consistent to show that married men made 20 to 30% more because they worked longer hours, up to 200 to 400 more hours on average than single men. They also found that married couples tended to work as a unit, meaning that, for example, when the couple had one income stream, they could depend on the other partner's income stream to allow them to stay in the job market longer. A study also found that they operated as a unit, so that both partners, knowing that they might have family, a partner, dog, cat, or someone, a child, at home, depending on their income, so they search longer and they search for higher paying jobs, which somewhat they were afforded to do because they were a married couple. However, there are significant real dollar benefits to married households.
Oh, okay, so he says it finally there. Married men working longer hours for whatever reason. I'm sure a single man can work longer hours too for whatever reason as well. Now the part about them having a partner, a wife, and so now you got two incomes at least, and so now that money is combined, then okay, you get that argument as well, but that's still, you got a second person there versus the single person who doesn't. So, you know, it's just two against one. A single guy can get in a relationship as well. And so when you put that there, you know, based on what he just said, it's nothing that just stands out that a single man cannot do, as short of getting married himself to just catch up with the married man. The way it's worded, why they make way more than a single man, makes it seem like it's just something that a single man can't achieve based on this whole being married, or like something that just comes into play. It's really nothing that can't be achieved by a single man, just because, you know, the married men are making more, number one, working longer for whatever reason, more hours, and then of course being married to people, to income, so that thing like that. So now that's coming in as a unit. So here we go. Let's continue, finish this video up.
With Vox noting that system grants married people more than 1,000 legal benefits that are not available to single people or single people cannot access. In fact, while you might expect married households to have twice the wealth of single households, they actually have 3 times the wealth due to the benefits of the tax breaks, the savings that they can combine, and more importantly, the compound interest and growth that their money has, with their net worth being around $400,000 compared to around $50,000 for single individuals with no children. There's also the singles tax, where individuals who aren't able to combine their incomes may have to pay almost twice the same amount of money to stay in the cities as married households. I will point out, this is assuming that these married couples do use their money to work together. I have a friend in finance, and he pointed out that 2 financially illiterate people can also dig a hole twice as fast. Why that matters: inflation, like everything else, is driving up rent and household prices, with, as the date of this video, average rent around the United States for a 1-bedroom being around $1,500. Here are your highest rents around the United States, with New York holding the crown for the 20th consecutive year with the highest 1-bedroom rent in the United States. And the average household has also gotten older and needs to make more income to afford a home in the United States, with their profile being $97,000, and reaching the highest age ever, with the average first-time home buyer being 38 years old. Just to round it all out, I'll also cover what the middle class looks like in the United States as of the date of this video. Middle class being defined by Pew as 2/3 to 2 times median household income, which puts us at about a range of $50,000 to $150,000. I've mapped that for you around the United States here, and you can also find your state low to high and middle class in these tables here.
This saved me hundreds of dollars in missed appointment fees. Let me explain. I wasn't fully convinced the Skylight calendar would be able
and here. The U.S. Department of Justice also drops this report looking at median family income for a household of 1 to 4, and you can find your state here. And because people still consider 6 figures a significant milestone in the United States, I've mapped the gross income you would need to make in each state around the United States in order to net $100,000 after taxes, and you can find your state on this map or in this table here. In order to enter into the top 1% of households, you'll need to make an income of nearly $800,000, but that does vary significantly around the United States as well as by age. I pulled this table from the U.S. Federal Reserve, which looks at the age of head of households, and then I mapped it for the top 10%, top 5%, and top 1% of income earners. These figures are from 2022. And here's an updated map from Visual Capitalist looking at the top 1% of income earners around the United States. A survey from Bankrate found that most Americans thought you were rich if you made at least $500,000 a year, and here's that breakdown by generation. Whereas most Americans thought you were wealthy, according to this report from Bloomberg, if you had a net worth of at least $2.5 million. Net worth is assets minus liabilities, and there's a link to a free net worth calculator in the video description below if you want to see what your net worth is. Here's an example from how to calculate your net worth from NerdWallet. Overall, when it comes to the middle class, most of their net worth is captured in the home, with about 40 to 60% of their wealth being held in home. Whereas when you start to move into the top 10% and top 1% of income earners, you see that net worth being held in stocks and bonds, as well as other assets. In fact, about 90% of the stock market is held by just 10% of individuals. I went through the Federal Reserve and downloaded this report looking at U.S. change in family finances, which also captures net worth and wealth in the United States. And here is your average, median, and top 1% of net worth by age in the United States.
All right, I'll stop it there. Great research and a lot of data provided by the content creator. His full channel, Life After Debt, with the Marcus Garnett. Marcus Garrett, I'm sorry. So check out his content as well as I'm reacting to his video. This is his channel, and he made a lot of good points. And I'm single, like I said earlier in the video. I don't mind getting married. That's not off the table for me. I'm 40 years old and I would still get married, not necessarily just so I can make more money from what he's saying in this video, but even with what he said, and it makes sense with them having a unit and being able to combine savings and then tax breaks. It's just basically certain gifts that they throw to people who are married, certain benefits, things like that. As far as married men working more hours, a single man can do that. And obviously the things that you get from government tax breaks, being married, there's a block in that for single men because you're just not married. It's nothing that a single man can't really change if a single man decides to finds the right lady and gets married. So the title on why married men make way more money than single men, I mean, it's understandable, but it's nothing that single men couldn't overcome. It's not like this huge gap from even with all of the data he gave, and it was more data than anything about why they make more. There's a small segment of why he says they make more, the longer hours and then being married, so you got a partner. But other than that, it's just numbers and statistics height, things like that. So, do you all feel married men make more money than single men? To my single men out there listening, are you comfortable with where you're at? Are there married men that you are doing better than, that you know of personally? So put all of that down in the comments and let me know what you guys think about this video and my reaction to it for married men and single men in these United States. And where do you feel you fit in as a married man and as a single man? And do you agree with this video or not? And overall, are married men more successful than single men? Answer that question for me. I'm not going to give a definitive answer and just say yes. I mean, there's a lot of single guys that are doing fine. So success is such, a general term. And I can't just go right out and say, hey, single men are more successful than married men, or married men are more successful than single men. It just all depends on how you balance out your finances, pursuing your purpose, long-term goals, and if you're where you want to be at, if you're on track, that determines success. If you just want to put, quantify it with a dollar amount, then you can go there. There are married men who make more than single men. There are single men who make more money than married men. The average salary of a man in the United States, they pointed out in the video, is $37,000. That's the median. So you got men below that and you got men above that. And so I don't think the height thing really factors into anything, to be honest. I mean, if you really tall, then maybe you can get in the NBA, and that's a maybe. But other than that, there's guys who are 5'10", 5'11" in the NFL or playing baseball. But just taking sports out of it, interesting video overall. Love the data and statistics that he provided. So it gives anybody who watches this, a really great picture with the graphs and the years and the percentages on where everybody stands at in terms of a married man, or a single man. So let me know what you guys think in the comments, all my married men and single men. Like, share, and subscribe to my channel, Facts or Feelings. All one word, no spaces. Put that in the YouTube search and my channel comes right up. That's Facts or Feelings. And send any other topics or videos you want me to discuss or review, react to, like I just did this one, to my email address, which is cregier.mj@gmail.com. That's cregier.mj@gmail.com. Send it there. And I'm out. Success is what you make it, single or married. And we'll leave it there. Have a good one.